Hi guys. So to begin with, you need to pause the video and put this warm up in your notes. Make sure that you have this dated as May 16th um, or May 17th if you're in Brown Day. Um, this is your third graded warm up. So make sure that it gets on the same notes. You'll be turning these in next week when you take your quiz. So you should have these. You should be able to look back in your notes if you took notes last time to identify them. Don't forget these are grades, so I would make sure that you have them complete. So go ahead, pause the video and complete the warm-up. And then when you're done completing the warm-up, just go ahead and resume the video. Okay, so before we actually have you head your notes, we are going to do a short quiz just to see how you guys are kind of doing with your notes. So this is kind of a good incentive to do notes. It will go in as a quiz grade, so you do actually have 2 quiz grades now for the end of the quarter, which is good news because this could very well help some of you. I know some of you are on the bubble. So you need to pause the video or stop the video, go get this paper that looks like this from the sub, complete it. It's 4 questions and then a couple of vocabulary terms. You are allowed to use your notes. Everything should be in your notes, and it should be as specific as the last video was or the lesson was if you're in Mr. Zeidler's class. Okay, so now you can officially head your notes. When you head your notes, this is 7.3. You are classifying triangles using angles and sides. And then again, you're going to write and solve equations to find missing angle measurements for a triangle. So the vocabulary you have today are all of these vocabulary words. I wouldn't worry about writing them down quite yet because we'll get to them. So when you're classifying a triangle, there's 2 ways you can classify it. You can classify it by its angles, or you can classify it by its sides. You'll need to know both of them. One thing I would make sure is that you have this diagram written into your notes because you're going to want it, so that way you don't get a little bit confused. And then when Mr. Zeidler and I get back, we'll make sure to get you a copy of this, but it'll still be good to have in your composition notebook, so that way you're not missing anything. So acute triangle would be all, talking about all angles, so all acute angles, meaning everything smaller than 90 degrees. You have a right triangle, so you have to have at least 1 right angle. You can't have more than 1 right angle in a triangle. And then an obtuse triangle, so it has to have at least 1 obtuse angle. So you're going to classify these as both with their angles and their sides. So scalene is no congruent sides, meaning nothing is the same. Isosceles is 2 are the same. So if you look at this, the hash mark shows you which 2 sides are the same. So if they share the same hash mark, that means they're the same. If you look at the scalene, you very well could have 1 hash mark here, 2 here, and 3 here to show all different sides. And then the 3 congruent sides, meaning that they're all equilateral triangles. So again, I would pause the video and make sure you have this in your notes because you're going to want it. Your guys' quiz is actually next Thursday, so it's about a week from when we see you tomorrow. So make sure that you are prepared for that because the end of the quarter is wrapping up. So this is something that would be nice to have in your notes simply because it's good vocabulary. So the triangle piece I wouldn't worry about because you guys all know what a triangle is. The congruent segments, though, is important to know, and then the tick marks on the sides of the triangle indicating that those sides are congruent. That's an important concept to know as well, especially on your quiz when we just ask you guys to identify them just based on the model. So when you're looking at this, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is draw a triangle with 1 obtuse angle and no congruent sides, then classify the triangle. So I would make sure that you guys have this written down because if you don't have this written down, it's going to be really hard to justify what you wrote in your notes compared to what is needed on the quiz. If you just write down this answer that I give you, it's not really going to do a whole lot unless you have the example to refer back to. Okay, so when you're drawing this triangle, you're going to draw an obtuse angle with 2 segments that have different lengths. And then you're just going to connect the 2 segments, and then to justify it, you're going to justify it as the triangle is an obtuse scalene, so that's how you're going to classify it. The justification then would be because it has obtuse angles, no side lengths are the same. So again, tying it back to that vocabulary. Draw a triangle with no right angles and no congruent sides and then classify it. This one's a little bit different because it doesn't really specify. So you very well could have an acute scaling, so you could have 3 different side lengths with all acute angles. You could also have an obtuse scaling with 3 different angle measurements, one of them being obtuse, and then all 3 different sides. So it kind of depends on how you looked at this. Either way would be acceptable, but I would make sure that both are written in your notes. So this one, classify the triangle by the house with its angles and sides. So looking at this, these hash marks tell me that they're the same. So you should have labeled it as an obtuse isosceles because there's 2 side lengths the same, and then this obtuse angle. Classify the marked triangle below as its angles and sides. I know it has a right angle, so it has to be a right triangle. There are no hash marks, so if there's no hash marks, I'm going to assume that nothing is the same, and it's going to be a scaling triangle. Classify the triangle shown as its angles and sides. Again, the right angle gives it away that it's a right triangle. So make sure you're always justifying this. I know that I just gave you the name, but I would also make sure that you justify it. So it's a right scaling because it has a right angle. It's scaling because there are no sides the same. So make sure that you have this piece in there. It's important that you're able to justify it. If you're able to justify it, then it tells me you truly know what you're doing on the quiz. And we always ask for an explanation. So this would be showing your work when there is really no math involved. It's a lot of vocabulary. So now to look at the triangles, it's all going to add up to 180. This is where some of you will lose points because you'll decide that you don't want to show work. Don't forget that we grade on work now, so you need to make sure that you're showing your work and showing all of those steps. Okay, so the sum of a triangle is 180, so all 3 angle measurements. This could be 3 angle measurements that are given to you. This could be variables that are given to you. You need to know how to solve both of them. Okay, so if you look at this, you have 119 degrees for y, 43 degrees for x, and then you're looking for z. So when you write this equation, you're wanting to write it as the measure of angle z, so this unknown, plus 43 plus 119 is equal to 180. From there, you're going to want to combine like terms. So you have z plus 162 is equal to 180. You're going to want to subtract 162 and then get the measure of z is 18 degrees. Okay, so what we're going to be looking for is that you can set up this equation. You can combine like terms. You can then solve the one-step equation and then label it with the measure of angle z is 18 degrees. Do not forget the degrees because that would be considered your label. Okay, so this one I want you guys to go ahead and pause the video and complete on your own. And then when you get back, I will give you the answers. So when you're looking at this, B plus C plus A should have been 180. So you should have had 50 plus 80 is equal, or plus A is equal to 180. Then you would have combined like terms and got 130 plus A is equal to 180. Subtracted 130 to get A is equal to 50. And then I didn't put a degree sign on there because I don't remember the option on my keyboard. So degree symbol would be that, so 50 degrees. Okay, so make sure that you have that to show. This one is the same thing, 25 plus 108, or you guys go ahead and pause the video and complete this one. So coming back to this, 25 plus 108 plus C is equal to 180, and again, you could have put the degrees on there. You should have put the degrees on there, and then especially on this label down here. So 133 plus C is equal to 180. Subtract 133, and you get C is equal to 47 degrees. Go ahead and pause the video. You guys complete this one. You're just looking at the Alabama state flag for this triangle. Okay, so you should have had 110 plus 35 plus x is equal to 180. Combine like terms, so 145 plus x is equal to 180. Subtract that 145, so x equals 35. So if you guys are wanting steps to put into your notes, these are the steps I would take. So 1, write the equation involving all pieces. And then the second step would be to combine like terms. The third step would be to take the inverse, and then after you take the inverse, you'll have your degrees, and then make sure you label with the degree symbol. Okay, so that's the steps that I would put in your notes if you would like those notes. And then lastly, you guys pause the video and complete this one. So when you answered this, you should have had 32 plus 116 plus x is equal to 180. You would have combined like terms to get 148 plus x is equal to 180. And then subtract 148 to get x is equal to 32 degrees. So now your next step, you don't have any homework, but you do have an in-class activity that is required. So you need to go to the sub and you're going to ask for two things. The first thing you're going to ask for is you're going to ask for the packet of directions. The packet of directions, one of them will be cut up and the other one is just a worksheet. The second thing is you're going to ask for the answer key document. So your goal is you need to complete the two activities. It's all over vertical, complementary, supplementary, and adjacent angles, so everything you've been working on. The answer key document is due today, so it needs to be done in class. If you do not finish, I will allow you guys to take it home and do next time. But if you choose to screw around in class and I get a bad sub-report or Zyler gets a bad sub-report, then we won't accept it next class. Since we're giving you time in class to work, then you need to use that time wisely. So you guys have the remainder of the class to work, and then once you are finished, you will be finished. We will both be back on Friday. Your quiz retakes are due on Friday, so make sure you're finishing that. And then if you need us, we'll both be back tomorrow, so feel free to come in tomorrow if you need any extra help. So have a fabulous Wednesday, and we will see you guys next time.